Welcome and thanks for joining us for another episode of Code Girls on Air, a podcast exploring all things technology, female leadership, careers, education, and topics within the nonprofit sector. On this episode, we will be interviewing Mary Ann Cummings, who is an associate teaching professor of computer science at Montana State University. She is passionate about fostering inclusivity and diversity in the tech realm and serves as the faculty advisor for the Association of Women in Computing at MSU. So join Mary Ann and me to hear more about her story. Well, hello, Mary Ann. Thank you so much for joining us today from Bozeman. Do you think you could start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your background and your career?
Sure. My name is Mary Ann Cummings. I grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I'm the first in my family to go to college. My parents told me at age 10 that I was going to go to college, and that helped. I think that got stuck in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated from James Madison University in 1984 with a degree in computer science and math. And the reason for the math was because I had so many math classes I had to take. I got a job with the federal government at NAVC, and in November of my senior year, that's when I got that job, and that really helped because after that, then I was able to know to go ahead and get that I had a job and I could complete my degree. It was a new major. Computer science was a new major in a new field, and I wanted a family and a career, and I got married right out of college, so it was great to get that job ahead of time. For 33 years, I worked for NAVC. For 19 of those years, I developed software for a weapon system that was integral to our nation's development and defense. After 3 years of working there, my organization sent me to Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California to get my master's. I did really well and won the Grace Hopper Award for my research. I then continued to develop software till 2002 when I became the program manager in charge of the development of the hardware and software for that weapon system. So at that point, I moved to strategic systems programs, which was also with the federal government. In 2011, I left that position and led a team of young computer scientists to develop a system of systems modeling and SIM framework. It was called the Orchestrated Simulation Through Modeling, known as OSM. And with that, you could create a simulation of missions for the Navy. We received a patent on OSM in 2016. Also, during those last 5 years of my career with the federal government, I got my PhD in software engineering. My research was in the quantification and qualification of emergent behavior for systems of systems modeling and simulation. So that's what happens when you put systems together. I then retired at the end of 2017, and the reason why I got my PhD is because I've always wanted to teach. And my husband wanted to retire to Montana, so Montana State University seemed like a great choice, and I became a teaching professor there.
Wow. Well, your story is incredible. It's so interesting to hear all the different paths you went down and everything you worked on. So did you always want to go into this kind of computer science field? I mean, it was relatively new when you were in college. Was that something that you always knew you wanted to be in a technological field? Or was that more of a spur of the moment kind of thing?
So that's a great question. So as you said, it was a new major. They actually graduated the first class of computer scientists in 1979, so the year before I started.
Mm-hmm.
I was always good at math, and I loved math. I had really good math teachers, but I wanted to be a early education teacher. But I found out when I was a freshman that teachers don't make a lot of money.
No.
And so my first semester, I said, well, I think I should look at changing my major. So I can remember looking through the catalog and seeing what kind of majors they had or what kind of careers you could get with math.
Mm-hmm.
And some reason in my head, remember I'm 18 years old at this time, I'm thinking, oh, you can't really get a good job in math. I don't know where I was thinking that, but that's when I'm looking through the catalog and I see that computer science has a lot of math tied with it.
Hmm.
In fact, I only had to take one more class to get my math degree along with my
Oh,
computer
wow.
science. Yeah, it was that
Wow.
much math. Also, I could have taken three more physics classes and got a physics degree, but I hated physics, so I wasn't doing that.
You passed on that one. Yeah.
Right.
I
But
don't
I
blame you.
always wanted to teach, so that's why I got my PhD.
Hmm. Well, I'm glad you're able to teach now at MSU. Isabel's in the tech booth right now. We plan to go to MSU next fall, so we're excited for that. What was your favorite thing when you were working for the Department of Defense? What was your favorite thing about your job before you started teaching?
So, in all these questions that you're going to ask me, and it says, what's your best thought? What's your favorite? I'm always going to give you more than one because there's always these.
Awesome. No, that's perfect. I hope you do. Thank you.
So, number one, I was creating something important for our country and for its defense, and that made me feel really good. So, I was
Mm-hmm.
thrilled to have a job that meant something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember the first time I went down into a submarine and saw my software running.
Wow.
It was the most incredible. I can still see that same day. I can still see that same feeling every time I look at that screen.
That'd be
Um,
surreal. Yeah.
that was so incredible. I got to ride on two submarines for a week each.
Hmm.
I rode on a destroyer for 4 days and an aircraft carrier for 11 days. So those are another huge highlights. Um, the government gave me a free education for both my master's and my PhD.
Oh, wow.
And I got to get a patent, something I
Hmm.
never thought I would get.
No, that's incredible. Do you think were some of the unique challenges you faced being a woman in the male-dominated industry that is tech and computer science?
So that's a really good question. It's funny that in 1984, when I graduated, when you look at the history, that was the year that the largest percentage of women were in the field.
Mm.
And so when I went to work for the federal government, I never noticed it.
Oh, wow.
But when I became a program manager, and when I was working with different contractors, that's when it became clear. It was 50
Hmm.
men and me at a meeting.
Oh, wow.
Also, when I went to Naval Postgraduate School, it was two women and the rest were men.
Hmm.
So that was also, and of course, all these men are in the Navy or
Hmm.
in the Marines. So that I felt it there too. So I
Yeah.
felt I wasn't heard. Uh, I had no one to talk to when I was at Naval Postgraduate School and when I was at SSP.
Hmm.
I had to prove myself in every position. I think that's the biggest thing for women is we feel like we have, men can just kind of rest on what they've done historically, but we have to keep proving ourselves. For example, when I got the Grace Hopper Award at Naval Postgraduate School, the uh, the men there were upset because I had a 3.97 GPA, but I had done my own um, thesis. Another student, a male, he had 4.0, but he did his thesis with someone else. And so I received the Grace Hopper Award. And
I see.
they went to the commander and complained.
Hmm.
And so, but they came back later and they all apologized for doing that. But I will
Oh, wow.
always remember
Okay.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was painful.
So you talked a little bit about how women need to speak up and be confident, but do you think what's in your opinion the most important strength or personality trait someone would need to be successful in your job or line of work?
So I also, in those last 5 years, I did a lot of hiring of young computer scientists too.
Hmm.
So I learned from that communication is so important. You can have a 4.0, but if you can't communicate, then it's really hard to be in this job. And I know that a lot of us are, it just, it's just natural that a lot of us are introverts. I'm an
Mhm.
introvert, but we have to learn how to communicate.
Yeah.
As my daughter says, I'm an introvert pretending to be an extrovert when I'm working.
No,
Um,
Isabel's nodding her head. She
yeah.
feels that too.
You have to work well in a team. And here's two of the most important things I think I've learned in my career is one is don't quit. No matter how hard it gets, don't quit. And you have to have work-life balance to continue in this career.
Hmm. Well, and speaking on work-life balance, because you have three daughters, correct? And you're a grandma
Yes.
now too. So how
Yes.
did you manage that, working as much as you did, but also having kids?
So that's a great question. One was I had a vision. I think everyone, especially women, you should have a goal, a 30-year goal. Where do
Mm.
you see yourself going? And I knew before I even started work that I wanted to have a family and I wanted to have children and I wanted to have a career. And that was hard to do, but my husband and I worked together. We had to switch off when a child was sick.
Mhm.
I've had a job, thank goodness, and this is what, for those interesting entering the career, make sure you ask these questions when you are interviewing. What do they do what are the benefits for women and men when they have families? So it was actually after my first daughter got chicken pox that the federal government said you can use your sick leave for sick family members. So up until
Oh,
then, I was
okay.
using my annual leave.
Right, right.
So it really helped to be able to use sick leave when I had to take off. Um, I just saved my leave for trips with the kids, and I lived close to work. So my kids went to school close to work so that I could get off and go see them and do things with them. But
Oh,
I
good.
had to really stick to the 8 hour work shift. And if I had to go back into work, I would go in at after I put the kids to bed at 10 o'clock.
Oh, wow. Okay. No, well, that's incredible. And I like what you said about the 30-year plan because I feel like a lot of people focus on a 5 or 10 year, but that doesn't get you too far when you're talking about having families, I guess. Um, so kind of switching gears now, what are the thoughts on the future of your industry? I mean, you started a lot of it. So what do you think, where is it going now? I guess is what I'm asking, in your opinion.
So that's a great question. So I did not realize when I got my degree, that this was going to be such a growing industry.
Mm.
When you look at like physics or engineering or math, a lot of them are, you've been learning the same thing that everything that they are learning, the building blocks are the same. But computer science, I can't believe how much has changed since I went to JMU. When I went to JMU, I was taught to program in Fortran. I learned about the operating system. I learned about logic and math. And 3 years later, when I went to Naval Postgraduate School, suddenly graphics and graphical user interfaces and C++ were now very big.
Mhm.
So I got to learn those. Um, Still, words like software engineering, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity, all those were words that weren't being used yet. Though that was new.
Right.
Video games came after that.
Oh, wow.
So the industry changed a great deal.
Hmm.
So where do I see it going? I think um, Chat GPT and generative AI and large language models are going to change the industry. AI is going to continue to change
Hmm.
um, the way we look at things. Cybersecurity and quantum computing are going to also change greatly how we do things. I'm shocked, or I'm shocked, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Hmm. No, and can you go a little bit more into how you think, I mean, cybersecurity, is that related to the AI or is that a different issue that you see changing that?
So I believe that because of AI, um, and quantum computing, that cybersecurity is going to be changing a great deal.
Mm,
Really, with cybersecurity, it happened with social media and the fact that we all use computers, or, it's software is completely a part of our life now. No matter what we touch,
yeah.
there's software.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what, to me, has driven cybersecurity. And now
Mm-hmm.
AI and in the future, quantum computing will be able to break encryption and be able to store information that we have to really understand the industry.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, now we carry around, little computers in our pockets all day long. And okay. Can we talk a little bit more about your experience at MSU and how that's been going for you?
Sure. So I've decided to be a teaching professor,
Mm-hmm.
which means that I wanted to work with undergraduates and I didn't want to do research.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to teach because I had learned so much in my career that I wanted to show that. And when you're in school for 4 years, you learn a whole lot about computer science, but you may not learn, well, what is it that I really have to do as a computer scientist once I start working? So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I bring that to the table. I teach, one of the classes I love to teach is social and ethical issues in computer science. And that's a core class, which means that anyone can take it. So I love teaching about all the issues that are out there and how we all have to really think through these issues. We can't ignore what's going on. We have to be good citizens, and we have to vote, and we have to call our congressman when things like AI or facial recognition or any types of issues that are out there. I also teach data structures and algorithms. I love teaching that class because the students already know Java, and I am teaching them about very important algorithms and data structures they will need in order to get a job. And one of my favorite classes is software engineering. And this is where I feel like I'm taking the students back to the beginning again, because this is like a new subject. They've learned how to program, and now they have to learn, okay, what's the rest of the career
Right.
involved?
No, yeah. And that's I liked what you talked about solving issues with computer science because that's what Code Girls is all about. I mean, I know but the girls, pick a community issue and then use their app that
Yes.
they create to help solve that. Can you talk a little bit more about your experience at Code Girls? Because we've talked a lot about your career. How have you been
So,
involved, I guess?
sure. Um, I've been the faculty advisor for the Association of Women in Computing for 7 years.
Mm,
When I had my original career, I had, I wasn't focusing on women versus men. I knew it was tough. But when I got to MSU is when I found out that there are people that really want to help women become computer scientists. And I'm passionate about increasing the number of women in computer science. So last year I attended the one of the fundraising events at Code Girls United, and I learned a lot about that. And then last year I was asked to apply for a position as a board member, and I was very excited because it fit into my passion.
hmm
And I did become a board member, and I love the mission of Code Girls United, and I'm happy to help it grow.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, we appreciate you, and we're so happy you're on our board. Just kind of in closing, what do you think is one piece of advice you'd give to anyone that's starting out in your field?
Take risk. Do something that's uncomfortable or scary, because that's what will help you improve.
hmm
And for heaven's sake, start saving for retirement the moment you start working.
No, that's great. No, I agree. Especially everything is just getting more and more expensive. So, do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to add before we wrap up here?
With this degree and in this industry, make sure that you continue to learn. Don't
Mm,
just think that once you graduate, you are done.
hmm Yeah. Well, and
And
there's new languages, that shift the leading language in so many different companies now. So you can't just learn one and be, one and done. Um, Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And it's been a very, very interesting conversation. I'm glad we've had to have it. Anyway, yes, thank you so much. And we hope to talk with you more. I mean, Isabel and I might see you. Hopefully we'll be in some of your classes if you're still teaching, fall of 25. But yeah, maybe we can continue some of these conversations. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Next week on Code Girls on Air,
I had some challenges around kind of finding my way in my space and then even feeling valid and worthy of the space. I didn't feel like initially that I had anything in common with this world. And when I started to understand that I could translate the skills that I had obtained and became efficient in through the military and law enforcement into more civilian terminology, I realized that I was absolutely more than qualified.